Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Danny Ramon, and I'm the Intelligence and Response Manager here at Overhaul. I've been studying cargo theft and supply chain intelligence for 13 years. I'd love it if you drop a note into the comments. Let me know where you're joining from today. Now, today we're going to be talking about seasonal trends in cargo theft. So if you have any questions or comments at any time, please feel free to drop that in the chat. And if I can't address that while we're live, I will circle back and answer them at the end of the broadcast. I'd also love to hear if you have any seasonal trends that you're aware of or any that you might have questions about. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it. Now, there's some seasonal trends within cargo theft that happen annually, such as a spike in cargo theft that we typically see late in Q3 that continues into Q4 every year, and that typically revolves around the increased shipping volume due to the holidays. And then there's some trends that are reactions to market conditions. Such as the huge spike in thefts of paper products and cleaning supplies that we saw at the beginning of the pandemic. Now, cargo thieves are always looking for the most money for their efforts and the least risk for their actions. But let's back up a little bit. How exactly do cargo thieves decide what to steal? How do they target specific products? Well, first, it's helpful to understand that there are two basic types or two basic groups of cargo thieves. There's the organized crews, and then there's the local thieves. Now, organized crews, these are the folks who wake up every day and travel multiple states with the express purpose of stealing entire tractor-trailer loads full of cargo. They typically have a leader who is not actually on the theft crew, and that leader has a relationship with a fence contact. Now, this fence will put in orders for either very general or very specific types of product. It can be anything from I need a tractor trailer full of consumer electronics to I need a tractor trailer full of women's clothing, size 8 to 12 from the fall line from such and such label. And when organized crews are stealing entire tractor trailers like this, they'll typically take home 10 to 15% of the value of the cargo. Then there's local thieves. Now, local thieves are typically, like I said, like the name implies, local to the area. They're not waking up with the express purpose of committing cargo theft, and they're not going to travel very far to do it. They're typically already involved in other types of crime in their area. Very often it's going to be violent crime. And they typically are practicing pilferage. They're stealing mostly based off of opportunity. And because of that, they're going to go where the opportunities are the densest. They'll shop containers and trailers in target-rich environments, such as drop lots, truck stops, or rail yards, because wherever there's going to be a lot of targets, invariably, as the rule of mathematics goes, some of those are going to be the low-hanging fruit and are going to be easier to obtain whatever's inside of those. Now, some of these local thieves have become somewhat organized in the last 12 to 18 months. Some of them are operating with inside information or know to follow targeted products or products that they're hoping to target from origins that they know ship those particular products. Now, for both of these criminals, it's always a risk versus reward and an effort versus payoff calculation when they're deciding what to target. But at any time, if you can make it to where the margin on these products is going to be greater than the 10 to 15% that they get when they're fencing an entire tractor trailer load, it's going to make it a more attractive target. So one of the things that we look at when we're looking at annual trends, or one of the most prolific annual trends that happens every year, is we see a spike in building materials during hurricane season. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One, there is an increased demand for it as property damage caused by storms necessitates rebuilding. We're going to see thefts of the materials that is required in order to perform these repairs. Another factor of that is that you can often cut out the level in this chain of the fence who's going to be taking a cut of that margin, and you can actually sell these products directly to end users, whether that's going to be general contractors or other construction companies who are going to be actually using these materials themselves to perform these repairs. You can increase the margin and the profit you're going to make from those products that you've stolen. Another annual trend that we see every year is the theft of, or the targeting at least, of chicken wings and avocados late in the NFL playoffs, specifically leading up to the Super Bowl. Now, there's been stories released earlier this year in Mexico talking about the targeting of avocados for cargo theft between the farms and the packing plants, and how they've had to hire armed security to escort the trucks from the farms to the packing plants. That's a different type of cargo theft than what we see here in the U.S., but it is definitely seasonal. But we do see avocados being targeted for full trailer load and full truckload cargo theft around the Super Bowl, because it is actually the one day when the consumption of avocados is greater than any other day here in the U.S. Now, you might think that that's going to translate into certain other holidays too. Now, I know everybody's probably thinking about turkeys leading up to Thanksgiving. We actually don't see a spike of turkey thefts leading up to Thanksgiving. I think one of the biggest reasons for that is seasonally, turkeys are going to be used as a loss leader in the retail business, meaning that they're actually not going to be making money on selling on the prices that they're selling turkeys for, because everybody's going to be buying a turkey. They're getting you in the door to buy the turkey, and they're going to make their margin on other products, right? So during the time of year when turkeys are flying off the shelf and demand is definitely high, turkeys themselves aren't actually going to be that profitable of a product to steal and try and fence. Other annual trends that we see every year: the must-have gift during the holiday season. I am not super up to date on the latest consumer trends, but whatever the Tickle Me Elmo is for this year, you can bet the cargo thieves are going to be targeting it. And if they don't harden their supply chain, they're going to suffer some losses. And we also see typically, again, an overall spike during Q4. Now, over the last couple of years, we've seen this particular annual trend, start to fade. And the reason for that is the pandemic interrupted the supply chain so much that it's forced retailers to stock up early. So that is diffusing the concentration of cargo, or the shipping volume that usually happens leading up to the holiday shopping season, and has caused that to be spread out over a much longer period of time. So as that shipping volume is spread out over a much longer period of time, so is the cargo theft spike. So that spike that used to be quite sharp is becoming a little bit flatter, a little bit shallower, and if going forward, if retailers continue to not have full faith in the supply chain, the just-in-time logistics system, and continue to stock up early, we will likely see that trend continue to fade and continue to just sort of shallow out the way we've seen over the last 2 years. Now, there is another type of seasonal trend. It doesn't necessarily happen every year, but does happen for about a season, and they're usually surrounding an event or they're reacting to some sort of market condition. One that you can bet on every single time is a release of latest generation consumer electronics. Whether that is a huge jump in television technology, or very commonly we'll see around the release of a next generation video game console or computer hardware, will cause extreme targeting by cargo thieves, both the local criminals and the organized cargo thieves who will travel multiple states to obtain full trailer loads. We do see, market reactions in form of cargo theft targeting for any products that are experiencing purchasing restrictions or retail shortages. The biggest and best example of this is paper products, toilet paper and paper towels, masks, gloves, and cleaning supplies at the beginning of the pandemic. Again, also GPUs, processors, and PC components when those were in short supply. Again, anytime that you're seeing new products selling on the secondary market for higher than the suggested retail price, those are going to be hot targets for cargo theft. And unfortunately, another trend that we see seasonally that revolves around events is natural disaster or storm impact or even social unrest. Now, this doesn't necessarily provide a specific product target, but it does provide a geographical area in which conditions are going to be favorable for cargo theft, so long as that event doesn't disrupt a cargo thief's ability to get in and get out, as long as it's not shutting down the highways. So a great example of this is Memphis, late January. There was some social unrest due to the release of some body cam footage, and the local police and state police that were in the area of Memphis were very much preoccupied with keeping the peace in downtown Memphis. Unfortunately, there were some bad actors who capitalized on that opportunity to perform some cargo thefts, actually quite a bit of cargo thefts in the industrial area, which is quite far removed from the downtown area where the largest amount of police presence was. Anytime there's an event, natural disaster, social unrest, a hurricane making landfall, anything like that, that's going to tie up law enforcement response. The criminals are aware of this. They know that property crime falls down the priority list a little bit farther. And unfortunately, they are going to try and capitalize on that every opportunity that they get. Some of the other market reactions that we see, when the ratio of copper scrap prices to gas prices reaches a certain level, it becomes profitable. Again, looking at the effort versus payoff calculation, it becomes profitable for organized cargo thieves who can transport an entire tractor trailer to start targeting scrap metals. Now, of course, copper is usually the bellwether of this particular category because it is the most profitable of the scrap metals to steal. But once an organized cargo thief is going to go through the trouble of setting up a fence for scrap metals, they're not going to stop at just copper. Any scrap metal that's going to get them a profit will be stolen if they have the opportunity to steal that. And of course, what we're also seeing in terms of market reactions and seasonal events that lead cargo theft, any event or specifically policy that grants increased purchasing potential in a particular area. What I'm thinking of in particular here is state rebates and incentives for solar panels and solar installations. Excuse me. We have mentioned before, we actually put out an alert not too long ago about the increase in targeting of solar panels across the country. Now, we are noticing that targeting across the country, but that is concentrated in areas where we see high solar adoption and high solar activity in terms of installation and incentives and rebates and things like that. So anytime you see something like that, something that's going to make it more desirable, and again, solar panels, much like building materials, can be sold directly to the end user or the end installer, the general contractors and solar installers who are actually going to be putting this equipment up on people's roofs and in people's homes. It's also the same kind of thing that I expect will continue to increase in popularity, and we'll start to see it overlap with certain seasonal trends like hurricane season. One of the most popular building materials to be stolen during hurricane season is shingles. And as more and more shingles get covered with solar panels, those solar panels are also going to need to be replaced if they get damaged as well. So those will continue to increase in popularity as solar adoption goes up. Of course, that's going to be a long-term trend, but I do believe it's going to be happening. Now, the point of all this, and what you have to keep in mind, is that the criminal is more agile than any company. They've got less overhead. They've got less moving pieces to move around when they need to react. If they need to get to a certain place or start targeting a certain product, they're able to do that much more quickly, typically, than any shipper is able to adjust their supply chain and secure their supply chain. So you always want to be ready before these things start to affect your supply chain. I've got a great friend, John Cannon, who likes to say that you want to dig your well before you're thirsty, right? Because if you're thirsty and you're trying to dig the well, then you're not going to have a good time. But a look forward, right? What's coming? Knowing these things, what can we look forward to in 2023 in terms of cargo theft risk? Well, it's always hard to tell because these market events that these criminals react to, I don't know what they're going to be yet. But we all have to keep our eyes open. We have to keep our ears open, share information, and let each other know what's going on in your particular areas. That's the best way to help each other is with information sharing. As always, you can feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. I always try and put out timely, relevant information that relates to the supply chain and how it might affect various shipments across the country, across the globe. But beyond that, as mentioned, the most prolific annual seasonal cargo theft trend is coming up. Hurricane season begins in June, and building and supplies thefts will likely spike. There are predictions this year for 11 to 15 named storms. Four to eight of those are likely to become hurricanes, and 1 to 3 of those will likely be major hurricanes. Of course, it's hard to tell at this point how many of those will make landfall and where. But that's definitely something to keep an eye on. If you guys have any questions in the future, please feel free to add them to this thread or contact me directly on LinkedIn. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.